like that. No matter where you are on the hill, no matter where you are in the rev range, put your foot down and it will pull and pull. Hello guys, and welcome back to TirsbaekTV. It has now been almost 4 years since the Storm Tuning Remap was installed on my Defender, and I always see that as a bit of a milestone moment for this channel, this Defender, and I imagine it's how a lot of you guys came across the channel in the first place. So today I thought I would reinstall the original stock ECU to my Defender and go for a drive, then reinstall the remapped one and do a bit of a back-to-back comparison because it's been so long since I've driven it with that stock feeling. So the ECU on a Td5 Defender sits underneath the right-hand side seat, which in my case is the passenger seat because I got a left-hand drive Defender, and it looks like this. This is the original stock ECU, but it looks exactly the same as the remapped one that's fitted right now, and it's just held in with 3 bolts and then the 2 plugs there as well. And this is effectively a kind of computer. ECU stands for engine control unit, and it manages how much fuel goes into the engine and when to put that fuel in very, very simple terms. And so by fiddling with this, we can greatly increase the amount of power and torque we get out of the engine. So all we need to do is swap it over. It should be as simple as that. So if you're remapping for the very first time, there are a number of things you're going to need to do in order to prepare your Defender for the increase in power and torque. And that's going to vary depending on what kind of remap you want, and probably also what company you go to and what they think is best for your Defender. We've always worked with Storm Tuning and been very, very happy with the results. Firstly on this Defender, and now also on This Is Disco 2, which I think is running basically the same remap as this, as Stage 2. Now you'll hear me throw that term around, Stage 2, quite a lot, because in the Storm Tuning world, they kind of categorize things by stages for their tunes. So there's 1, 2, 3, and I think 3 plus as well. And I think 2 is the most popular middle ground remap you can get, because it's not so little of an increase like a stage 1 that you might not notice it that much, but it's not as wild as a 3 or a 3 plus, where you need to start thinking about changing things like turbos and clutches and other internal expensive bits. So you can do a stage 2 and get very profound results with a pretty minimal change to the vehicle. And to be honest, they are changes that I would recommend making regardless of whether you want to remap or not, because they just improve the drivability of the vehicle and also the noise, which I'll get onto in a little bit. But the first one is the EGR. EGR stands for Exhaust Gas Recirculation, which is a system that was fitted to the vehicle from factory, which recirculates dirty exhaust gases around the engine in order to reduce the overall emissions that it makes. But I think this is something Land Rover just had to fit due to, you know, European legislation, and you as a private person, private customer, can remove it without any kind of negative side effects. Because I've never had an issue with an MOT or anything like that because of it, so it obviously doesn't bother them. Like I said, I think it's just something Land Rover had to do as a company, but you as a person can change. And that system is a pipe that runs around the front of the engine from down here on the exhaust manifold and round to the other side. So right now there's just a blanking plate here underneath this hose, and it's a kit that you can buy online. It's not expensive and it's a relatively easy job to do. The only difficulty can be getting these screws out of here, but otherwise very, very simple to do. And it by removing it, you improve the long-term health of your vehicle, because you're not recirculating these exhaust gases, and also get a performance gain as well, which is needed for this remap. The second thing you need to do here in this engine bay is adjusting the amount of boost pressure the turbo can make, and that's done very easily by adjusting the actuator over here. Again, something you can do very simply. You can do that from home and just adjust it to your liking. And then the next thing is the exhaust, my favorite part, because most vehicles, they have a big fat center silencer box in the middle of the exhaust system, in this case kind of underneath the cabin area on the Defender, and that needs to be removed in order to improve the flow of exhaust gases and reduce the back pressure from the turbo. And you get the added bonus of a very, very nice noise. Even if your Defender is stock, you'll get a very nice growly noise out of it. And then if you remap it, you will just be blown away by the sound that a very agricultural Defender like this can make. I'm actually very curious when we swap it around to compare, because I remember swapping the exhaust. I swapped the exhaust way before I ever had the remap, and being blown away by the noise. And then when you get the remap, it's just another level up. So it feels so wrong in a way for a diesel Defender like this, but I love the noise it makes. It's really, really enjoyable. You can also change the clutch if you want. Highly recommend LOF clutches. They offer a range of clutches depending on your remap and power and torque and so on. I didn't change the clutch immediately. I'm now running the power spec clutch from LOF because it was slipping just a tiny bit when you really, really floored it. But for the most part, you're going to be absolutely fine with the standard clutch. You don't need to worry about that. I just decided to swap it over. I'm also running the Circ Motorsport Performance Intercooler down here as well, which is not needed. I did not put this on until well after I had the remap, but obviously a nice little added thing you can put in there as well to improve the performance and the overall health of the vehicle. So just like the first thing you notice after installing the remap is the noise, first thing you notice when you take it away is the lack of it. It's not so much the volume, it's not kind of annoyingly loud or drony, it's just the tone. It just, I mean, I'm still running the straight through exhaust, of course, but I can't really hear it. It just sounds very normal, like a diesel engine. So now I'm wondering what it sounds like completely stock. Going up this hill, this is always a good test. I'm going to put my foot down a bit. And it just doesn't pull in the same way. I'm stuck behind a moped now with a blind crest. Oh, good thing I did not overtake him. So, I'll put my foot down again just up the top of this hill. Wow. It's really not as punchy. Really, it's a night and day difference. It's kind of hard to put into words, but it's just, feels really, I mean, I guess it feels like a Defender should, you know, but when you've driven the Remapped variety, that becomes your new standard, I guess, and this just feels normal. You put your foot down and there's a real gap before anything happens, and I know it's a diesel engine, so there is, you know, that natural kind of pause, but it's on another level when you don't have the remap. I feel like I'm sort of pushing it harder, like it's not as comfortable at these speeds, which I guess it wouldn't be. But it really, it's hard to explain. When you have the remap, you know, you think, oh, it's not going to be good to put all this power through it, etc. But it's almost like you're taking some weight off of its shoulders. It sort of makes it smoother, and you have a much smoother power delivery. In this, when I put my foot down, it's like, it's really feel like I'm, yeah. And remember, this is with performance intercooler, EGR blank, straight through exhaust. So there's a slight, you know, there are some performance improvements going on underneath the skin here, but the remap is really the key that kind of activates all of this and really makes the noticeable difference. I don't like this at all. It's not fun. I mean, if you've never driven a remapped Td5 Defender, it really turns it into something genuinely enjoyable on road. Don't get me wrong, it's not a sports car. It doesn't turn it into some lightweight, nimble B-road basher or anything like that. But you can put your foot down and get a bit of a thrill and get the growl from the exhaust, and this is just a bit boring. And like I said, no, it's not what the Defender is made for. But you can turn it into something at least a bit more fun than this. And many of you will be fine with pootling around and using a Defender as intended. And that's fine, if that's what you're into. But I'm so used to that remap now. The noise, the drama, getting thrown back a little bit, that without it, it's really uneventful, undramatic. Okay, there you get a little bit of that bark, a little bit when I'm flooring up the hill from the exhaust. You do that with the Stage 2 and you just fly effortlessly. I think it's time to do the swap. So, this is how easy this is to do. I've just pulled over the side of the road. I'm just going to lift up this, take this panel off here, and then down here we've got the ECU, as I showed you earlier. And I can do this here, don't need to be at home. There we go. Old one out. Away with that boring old thing. And now the lovely Storm tuning box here. So, let's get this started up. I'm actually kind of excited to drive it again, even though I've been completely used to it for 4 years. That was, yeah, weird. Okay, not as much difference in noise as I thought on the startup, but yeah, let's. Oh, okay, that was a lot more turbo there. It was like a you could feel it then. Feels pretty much normal now. Throttle feels a little bit more responsive actually, I would say. Okay, we get back out of the village and put our foot down here. Very easy to notice the difference. Hopefully there's not too much wind noise. It's just so warm in here. But hopefully you can hear that exhaust as well. Wow. Yeah, it's everything I was talking about. Effortless, much smoother power delivery, more responsive throttle, I would say. It's just downshift here to third. 2000 revs. Third gear, let's floor it. Still not near the red line, so see, this is what I mean. It's not a sports car, but you can kind of have some fun on like a sweeping country road, just putting your foot down in between the bends. Wow, amazing. You know what, actually I found a pretty good way, I think, of describing the standard tune. Is it almost feels like it's limited or restricted. You know, it feels like it's like that someone has actually put a limiter on it. Like there's more there. And now with the remapped ECU back in, it feels, you know, unlocked again. It feels like how it should feel, actually. To not get too carried away, actually. Picks up speed surprisingly quickly. Wow. Totally different car. I know it's a Defender, a different car, whatever, different Defender. Up the hill, see? And then just going up the hill like that. No matter where you are on the hill, no matter where you are in the rev range, put your foot down and it will pull and pull and growl like an angry animal. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's incredible. Just no matter where you are, you put your foot down and it will pull. It has the torque on tap there. I'm still changing early. Daniel, if you're watching. So Daniel from Storm Tuning, he always blames me for upshifting too early. That I wasn't revving it out. Now I actually have a rev counter, so there's no excuse, I'm still doing it. But then, as I demonstrated, I think in my original remap review, I put it into 5th gear now. I hope there's not too much wind noise. Put it to 5th gear now. It's completely smooth and calm. It's more kind of refined than the standard setup. So I'm driving it like a lunatic and it's making all this noise. But it's not droney, it's not annoying, it's not antisocial. You know, it's not a Vauxhall Corsa in the Halfords car park kind of... that. It's not like that. But then when you want it to be sensible and comfortable, etc., it's fine. It's nice. You can cruise and it feels more at home, more comfortable, especially for long journeys, motorway driving, etc. I can tell you it is so much better at that. But towing as well, anything you want to do in it, it will be better. I'm actually really amazed at that throttle response. I didn't expect that. It was not what I remembered, I think, from the standard, how different that was. But you do notice it pulling away, which, again, you know, it helps kind of the general day-to-day drivability, because you're pulling out of a junction or something where you want to overtake on the motorway. It does make a difference. It's not all about the angry, having a fun silliness that I'm just showcasing, because that's the fun part and that's what looks good on a video. Even when you're not pushing it, just like there, and you just build up the revs and you just get this lovely little burble. It sounds really nice. And you don't have to be absolutely nailing it. Just going through the bends here, you can just hear it. So nice. Go up the hill again. And this is a Defender with 307,000 kilometers on the clock. And I've had this Remapped for 4 years. Through on-road, off-road, motorway, long motorway journeys, etc., you name it. Nothing has gone wrong, and it drives better than ever. So there we go. It was really nice to be reminded of just how profound the effect of that remap is, and just to go for a little blast on this summer's day. If you haven't already watched it, do go and check out the original review I did of the remap shortly after I got it 4 years ago. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever made on this channel, and I talk way more in detail about what the remap does and why it's okay to be putting this much power through a 300,000 kilometer 20-year-old Defender. Thank you so much for watching. I should probably go and put my passenger seat back in now, because I don't think I'll be putting that old ECU back in anytime soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. It was so nice to be reminded... Eddie? Eddie? What are you doing? Wait down.